I've walked the halls of Congress. I've worked with a number of congressmen that you probably remember their names. Former Congressman Bob Barr, former Congressman Bob Dornan, B1 Bob they called him. Pat Buchanan's a good friend of mine. He's endorsed my candidacy. Doesn't mean I believe everything Pat believes and vice versa. I have some problems with his stand on Israel.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, look it, you've got a guy here that wants to serve you in the halls of Congress who's been endorsed by Pat Buchanan, endorsed by John O'Neill and the Swift-Boat veterans. By the way, they're going to come in to rally for my cause and help me get into the U.S. Congress. I've been endorsed by Jerry Corsi. I've been endorsed by quite a few other conservative leaders you may or may not have heard of, around the country. Bottom line is, I've been on conservative talk radio for about 16 years or more. I've lobbied in Washington, D.C. I started off as an activist in the pro-life movement. I led a group called Witness for Life in Canton back in 1986. We mobilized hundreds of pastors against Altman Hospital in Canton that kills babies. And that was my involvement politically from 1986 on till about 1993. It culminated in me joining with Randall Terry, blockading abortion clinics, doing sit-ins, peaceful demonstrations. One point in time I spent 3 weeks or more in jail. A federal judge was going to throw me in prison for 10 years because how dare you try to stop abortion. This judge actually looked down at me screaming and yelling and going nuts and saying, people like you need to be locked away for life. You know how I got out of that? I know about the miracle of prayer. Got on my knees in the jail cell, the 3 weeks I was there, and I prayed with other pro-lifers who were visiting me dressed in my little stupid orange outfit. I was in a jail cell with rapists and murderers and bank robbers who got it, who said, "Why are you here, Paul Schiffer?" I said, "Because I tried to save little babies. I used to blockade abortion clinics." And these hardened criminals said, "Well, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me." And every one of these hardened criminals was opposed to abortion, and they could not for the life of them understand why I was in jail. I said, "I don't understand why I'm in jail. It's a sign of the times. It's where we're at." And I am still that outspoken on these issues of life. If you want to see a crusader in the U.S. House of Representatives, you've got one here. Don't look anywhere else. Paul Schiffer's your man. A crusader on Second Amendment rights. A crusader on the right to life. I'll risk jail, again, if this government gets to the point where they say, you don't accept Obamacare, you're going to jail. Guess what? I'll be one of the first ones to go to jail. I've been there. I've done that. Okay? And to tell you about prayer, I got on my hands and knees one night there, and I knew I was going to face this federal judge who hated my guts. Got down with a pastor friend of mine and we prayed. And then I got word the next morning before we went in the courtroom, that judge that hates your guts, that you know is going to throw the book at you, he got sick, deathly sick over me. Some kind of terrible flu. And the good news is he's being replaced by a part-time judge, a retired judge, who's also a full-time Baptist minister. And this judge, I got before this judge, and he slammed that gavel down, and he said, "Your sentence is time already served." You know, redeemed. Glory, hallelujah. So that's a little example, just some of what I've been through. I've been through the trenches, and I've experienced hell on earth standing up for the cause. Some people say, "Well, Paul, you've never had a lot of money." The establishment guy, Mr. Renacci, I call him Mr. Moneybags, the anointed one. You know who the guy is. Mr. Excitement, because he's so damn boring. Make a long story short, I got a little ornery streak in me, okay? But at any rate, and if you've seen one of Renacci's speeches, you'll know what I'm talking about. And he hates me, and I don't hate him. I don't hate anybody, but I tell you what, I hate the fact that the Republican Party's decided in a time of the revolt, in the year of the revolt, the Tea Party movement, to shove this guy down our throats. Okay? It's unfair to me and the other guy in the room, who is a good guy, but what is happening to Miller and me is shameful. It's despicable how they're trying to shut us out of this race. It's not the American way. It's not the American way. So there, a little bit about my background. I'm as pro-life as you can get, pro-Second Amendment. And by the way, I do get it about the New World Order and the United Nations. Once in a while I'll talk about that. George H.W. Bush, I remember clearly, I'll give you the exact quote. I was sitting there reading Pat Robertson's best-selling book at the time, 1991 came out, and I used to ridicule my friends who believed in this New World Order they're going to impose on us. So I'm sitting there laughing, reading this book, and then I turned on the TV. Bush Sr., remember, gave his address to the House before we went into the Gulf War. And I remember his exact phrase, and folks, I fell out of my chair. I've got Pat Robertson's book. I'm sitting there reading, laughing at it, thinking it's crazy conspiracy stuff. I fell out of my chair because I'm looking at the book, reading about the New World Order being revealed in that book, and then George H.W. Bush saying, and the fifth and major objective of the Gulf War is to create a new world order as envisioned by the founders of the United Nations. And you know who the founders of the United Nations were? Communist spy Alger Hiss. Say, one of my political heroes is Senator Joseph McCarthy. The Republican Party, they hate that, but listen. Ann Coulter will reveal in her best-selling book, Treason, that Senator McCarthy, Joseph McCarthy, this guy is an American patriot. And when I get into the halls of Congress, I will do my best to build up his name again, and I think there should be a national monument on his behalf.
You better.
What do you think? Joseph McCarthy, in fact, I have some KGB friends. That's another story I'll get to. Some ex-KGB friends who are now Christians, patriots. They said, you know what? Senator Joe McCarthy was right, but you know what? He didn't go far enough. It was far worse than he had said about the communists who had infiltrated our government. And that's one of my specialties. I know about communism. I can smell a communist 100 miles away, and Barack Hussein Obama is a communist.